In today's video, I want to share my experience with a 3-day water fast and some of the reasons why I chose to do it, and also the benefits behind it that really helped me reset, and share some of my thoughts around spirituality as well based around that, because this for me was really a calling and a spiritual experience that I want to share with you and really feel called to just put this out into the world, right? So we're not going to be using the whiteboard. If you're familiar with my other videos, we're not going to be using the whiteboard in today's lesson. I'm just going to be talking about my experience in the hopes that it helps you too. So it was about 2 weeks ago, I really felt this kind of shift in energy, and I felt myself really leveling up, right? There's been a couple of times throughout the last 2 years or so where I felt consciously where I was leveling up in my emotional state, my level of consciousness. It was old belief patterns breaking, and this was really just down to a lot of the inner work that I've been doing. And a lot of the stuff that I talk about in this channel is based around reality creation, managing your emotions, mastering your mindset, removing limitations. And I'm on this journey just as much as you are. So I've been doing a lot of this inner work, and I felt a breakthrough that was happening. Now, one of the key things that I started to notice as I was having this breakthrough was that, funny enough, I actually became more susceptible to self-sabotage, which was interesting, because as I was kind of going through this breakthrough and I could feel that, I was leveling up, I was excited, I was really feeling like I was in alignment with what I was meant to be doing, and my emotional state was really high and energetic, and it was a great feeling. But there was a crash a couple of days later, and this was a clear signal to me that I was going through a breakthrough. I was changing, because the thing that happens when you are going through a breakthrough and you are raising up your levels of consciousness and you're kind of awakening and getting closer to the outcome that you're trying to create, you're going to feel a sense of self-sabotage, because there's an old identity there that you have been living for a long period of time that is going to try and pull you back. Because really, when we try to move forward in life and we have set a big intention for ourselves and we start to move towards that, our subconscious mind is getting triggered that this is an unsafe thing to do. Okay. And when we are having spiritual breakthroughs specifically, this is going to be even more dominant in our lives, and you can actually start to slip into past self-sabotaging behaviors. So I found myself oversleeping. I found myself sitting down and actually spending time on social media and scrolling, which I never really do anymore. And this was just something that I was becoming very aware of, and I was trying to figure out, like, why was it happening? I was craving all of this fast food, and I was really just like in a bit of a slog overall. And I couldn't figure out why it was happening, because up until that point I had been very consistent in the gym. I've been doing very well in business, connecting with people, and I felt like things were just on a roll. But as I was going through this breakthrough, I was consciously aware that I was being pulled back by this old identity. So I started to realize that this was happening. And as I was going through this, I started to tap into my inner voice, right? My intuition, and that kind of that higher guidance, right? I call it the superior self. It's maybe the higher self. It could also be considered God, or whatever it is that you really believe in. And I started to listen into that, and I started to really understand, well, what was this kind of message that was being given to me? And I started to understand that this is me going through a transition phase. And what I decided to do was actually commit to this transition by doing a 3-day water fast. I felt like this was one of the best ways to really honor my spiritual growth and to really honor this superior version of me that I'm stepping into. And this was a commitment for me to fast for 70 hours. Now, for some reason, 70 hours just came to mind. I know 3 days exactly is 72 hours, and that just didn't even occur to me. I just thought 70 hours, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to commit to. So I immediately just started the fast, and it was difficult for the first couple of hours, but the second day it got a little bit more difficult. But by the third day, I felt very refreshed, and I felt very in alignment. I was very proud of myself for actually doing it, because I felt like it was definitely the right move to do. Now, all that being said, I was also committed to meditating for at least an hour on each one of those days, which is, something that I do every now and again, but to do it consistently day after day was something I really committed to as part of this process as well. And even in the evening, I was doing an extra meditation. I was making sure I was staying very, very aware of myself. And really, all of this being said was just a commitment to my spiritual growth. So the reason I'm sharing this is because for me, the 3-day water fast was more of just a signal and an indication to the universe around me, right? To God, to my higher self, to my superior self, that this is a commitment that I'm willing to make. And that was just down to me listening to my higher guidance. I would invite you to consider doing the same thing. When you tap into that guidance within you, if you're going through an evolution process and you're really moving towards things, sometimes you're going to get a signal to do something that may be a little bit out of your comfort zone. And I would say always to lean into that as much as possible, because that guidance is usually directing you towards what you need to do. And even before this video, I was looking at the plant that is there behind me, and I found that, there was all these leaves falling off. And it just gave me a clear indication that, all the time we are always shedding old parts of ourselves. We are always evolving and becoming new. And it's the same thing with plants. It's the same thing with nature. We are the exact same. So we have to embrace the process of really going ahead and allowing those things to fall away from us, allowing those people to fall out of our lives, allowing those things that we no longer do, allowing those self-sabotaging behaviors to not be accepted by us anymore, and to raise our level of standards in the process as well. Because that's the beautiful thing about all of this. When we start to tap into that superior version of ourselves and we start to listen to that guidance, we can be taken in the right direction that's going to move us towards what we're really trying to create in our lives. But we have to be very careful that this old identity doesn't keep pulling us back, because when we start to see the self-sabotaging behaviors that are showing up and we're falling back into old habits and behaviors, we have to be very, very careful that this is not something that we fall back into, because that will stop our development and actually pull us back into where we used to be instead of where we want to go. So I wanted to share that with you. I know we didn't talk a lot about the fast. If you want to learn more about the scientific things behind the water fast, I would recommend going to someone else other than me. That's not my area of expertise, but I can say that it definitely gave me so much more clarity, so much more focus, so much more commitment to myself, and I was able to create amazing content because I had such a clear head. And it was really just an amazing experience overall. It was a test of my discipline. It was a test of my overall commitment. And of course, this is something that isn't even that long compared to even, fasting for 7 days or even longer. I know some people do as well. So definitely something I'm going to build over time. But if you are feeling spiritually drained, or if you feel like you are really going through an evolution process, I would consider doing a fast to really commit to that process, spending more time meditating, spending more time with nature, going to the beach. I remember I spent a full afternoon on the beach just looking at the water and embracing the actual growth that I'm going through. And that process was a really transformational for me, because I felt all of the old beliefs breaking away from me. I really felt like I was stepping into a new version of me. And sometimes that can be very discreet, and sometimes it can be very obvious. To me, in this case, it was very obvious. So I hope overall this video is helpful to you. Always lean into what that higher guidance is giving you, and making sure that you are constantly being aware of any self-sabotaging behaviors that are coming up that are going to pull you back from really stepping into that highest superior version of you. So that's it for today, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for being here.